The book of Genesis contains two creation stories. The second one, which we're exploring today, focuses on humanity. This isn't just a simple repetition. It's a new, more intimate perspective on the origins of man and woman. Subscribe now so you don't miss a thing. Welcome to New Pod. The account in Genesis 2, verses 4 through 25, opens on a scene of stillness. It describes a time when the earth was still barren. No shrubs had yet sprouted in the fields, and no grass had yet grown. The reason for this inactivity was twofold. God had not yet sent rain upon the earth, and there was no one to cultivate the ground. The world is presented as pure potential, a project waiting for its two vital elements, water from above and human labor from below. The only source of moisture was a mist that rose from the earth, watering the entire surface of the ground. It is in this minimalist setting, both empty and full of promise, that the creation of humanity will take place. The stage is set not on a backdrop of primordial chaos, but on an earth that is ready, waiting for the one who will come to shape and enliven it, a world that needs humanity to reach its full potential. Then, God intervenes directly. The text describes him as a divine craftsman. He forms man from the dust of the ground, an intimate, tangible act. This act is rich with meaning. The human, Adam in Hebrew, is formed from the ground, Adamah, signifying a fundamental connection between humanity and the planet. But the creation does not stop with this clay figure. Once this lifeless body is formed, God breathes into its nostrils the breath of life. This is the act that transforms matter into a living being. Man becomes a living soul, a dual creature, earthly in body and carrier of a divine spark in his breath. Immediately after, God plants a garden in Eden, to the east, and places the man he has formed there. This perfect environment is filled with trees that are pleasing to the eye and good for food. At its center stand the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The Garden of Eden is described with a level of geographic detail that's almost like looking at a map. A river flows out of Eden to water the garden. From there, it splits into 4 rivers that spread across the known world. The first, the Pishon, flows around the land of Havilah, a region known for its pure gold, bdellium, and onyx stone. The second, the Gihon, winds around the land of Cush. The third is the Tigris, and the fourth is the Euphrates. This description anchors the garden in a world that seemed real to its first listeners. So, God takes the man and places him in this lush garden. His presence there isn't passive. He receives a clear mission, a purpose, to tend the garden and to keep it. Man is positioned as the steward of creation, a partner with God in maintaining and preserving the world's harmony. His work isn't a chore, but a collaboration in the divine work, a responsibility to care for the beauty and fertility entrusted to him. Amidst this freedom and abundance, God gives the man a single instruction, a unique command that frames their relationship. He allows him to eat from every tree in the garden, without exception. Generosity comes first. The permission is almost total. It's a world of plenty where everything is offered. However, one single limit is set. Regarding the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the instruction is clear: you must not eat from it. This prohibition isn't presented as an arbitrary restriction. It comes with a solemn warning about its direct consequences, for when you eat from it you will certainly die. This statement establishes the concepts of choice and responsibility. Human freedom, while vast, is not absolute. It is exercised within a framework defined by the Creator, where a specific act carries an unavoidable consequence. After establishing the man's environment and his mission, God observes his situation. And for the first time in the creation story, he says something that isn't praise: it is not good for the man to be alone. This divine declaration is a turning point. It reveals that the perfection of the material world isn't enough for a human being's happiness. The man's loneliness appears as an imperfection, a void in the heart of the Garden of Eden's abundance. God then immediately announces his plan to fix this: I will make a helper suitable for him. Or, more literally, a help who is his counterpart. The expression suggests not a subordinate, but an equal partner, someone capable of dialogue and response. The solution to human loneliness is not found in things, but in a relationship. The search for a partner begins unexpectedly. God molds every animal of the field and every bird of the sky out of the earth, then brings them to the man. The man's mission is to name them. This act of naming is significant. It demonstrates the man's intelligence, his ability to discern, and a form of authority over creation. He observes, distinguishes, and assigns an identity to each living being. A whole procession of wildlife parades before him. Yet, the text highlights the outcome of this grand review, but for the man there was not found a helper as his partner. Despite the splendor and diversity of the animal world, no creature can fill his fundamental loneliness. None is his equal, his counterpart. This experience confirms God's observation: the solution lies elsewhere. Realizing that no creature could be the man's counterpart, God proceeds in an entirely new and more intimate way. He causes a deep sleep to fall upon the man, a kind of divine anesthesia. While the man is unconscious, completely passive, God gets to work. He takes one of his ribs, or one of his sides, and closes up the flesh in its place. It's from this part of the man himself that God will build the woman. The verb used suggests a work of architecture, a careful construction. Once his work is complete, God brings the woman to the man. Upon waking, the man's reaction is immediate and full of joy. He doesn't name this new creature like an animal, but recognizes her as a part of himself. His words are a cry of wonder. This at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. He calls her woman Isha, because, he says, she was taken out of man, Ish. The loneliness is finally broken. The account draws a conclusion from this event that becomes a universal principle, extending beyond the first couple. The text explains, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." Thus, the creation of woman from man establishes the institution of the human couple. This union is described as so deep that it forges a new unity from two distinct individuals. This attachment is presented as the natural order of things. The passage concludes with a final image, a note of harmony and total innocence. The man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed. This lack of shame signifies perfect transparency between each other, with the world, and before their creator. It is the image of a relationship with nothing to hide, without fear or concealment, the original state of humanity before any rift. The account in Genesis 2 closes on this vision of wholeness. The story in Genesis 2 verses 4 to 25 lays the foundation for the human condition, our connection to the earth, our relationship with God, and the nature of the bond between man and woman. Next week, we'll see how this original harmony is put to the test. Subscribe to NewPod to follow the rest of the story.